Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is the security news update for December 11th, 2022. In the security and privacy alerts section, the FCC has finally started to crack down on what's called ringless voicemails. It is a feature the carriers have come up with to keep the spammers in business. I don't exactly understand why the carriers think this is somehow important, that a consumer would actually want this, but I can understand that the spammers want it. So basically, what happens is the call goes directly to voicemail and without it ringing, and that way you get to listen to the voicemail or try to ignore it. The one of the spamming groups called All About the Message asked the FCC to exempt ringless voicemails from the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, which is a law that helps cut down on spam. And the reason why they said that it shouldn't count is because, well, the phone didn't ring, so it's not really a call. The FCC did not agree and unanimously voted to say yes, those are illegal unless the customer has given you prior consent. Under the reference section, we have the PCI software security framework. It's a replacement for the old payment application data security standard. Whether or not you development payment applications or not, it's still a great standard and for developing secure applications. So if you're in the application development world, I suggest you read that. I think that would be a good plan. Under the software and hardware to check out, Apple is finally rolling out end-to-end encryption, probably much to the chagrin of the Justice Department, who would love to get rid of encryption completely because it doesn't serve their purposes. It will include iCloud backups and data, but it won't include things like email and calendar stuff because those need to be readable by Apple in order to interoperate with other users. One point, of course, is that since Apple no longer will have the encryption key, you better come up with a backup method of recovering your data, assuming you'd like to recover your data. Also, this is an opt-in feature, which means that if you do not opt in, you will not get it. And Apple is also rolling out some new security features, iMessage, contact key verification, which verifies that you are in fact talking to the person that you think you're talking to, and only the person you think you're talking to. So that helps if the snoops go off and insert themselves in a group or bad guys. And also another new feature to require a physical security key like a YubiKey. Details are kind of light on these things, but knowing Apple, they're probably pretty good. In the legislative department, British companies are whining about a new British law that is going to require them to report breaches. Likely that's because they have not been reporting breaches. And why are they not reporting breaches? Because they're worried that the government might whack them with fines and penalties if they had a breach. So their solution to that, rather than clean up their Security Act, is to go off and whine to the government and say, no, we don't want to have to report breaches. My guess is the government's probably not going to buy into this, but who knows? In the education department, we have a great article by Professor Goldman. It is talking about why the laws around web scraping are not really clear. There's one case which people always point to, which is the HiQ versus LinkedIn case, which says that web scraping is not a violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which is a good thing, but there's still a half a dozen at least other laws that it might be in violation of, maybe more than that. And so, if for those of you who are legal geeks or who are involved in scraping other people's data, this would be a good thing to read. In the breaches department, boy, it's getting horrible. Sorry. A French hospital was hit by a ransomware attack. They had to cancel surgeries and transfer some patients. Is not good. Antwerp's digital services are down after a cyber attack. They also, their email and their phones are not working. Obviously, this affects um, schools and daycare centers, the police department, even. And gee, what a surprise! The attack was on a vendor. You know, these attacks on vendors we really have to watch out for because they're really running rampant. In New Zealand, multiple departments of the government as well as private industry were hit by a ransomware attack on an IT vendor that they use. Um, and also in the breach department, the New York Metropolitan Opera was hit by a ransomware attack. They're going to continue to perform. They just can't sell tickets. And come Christmas time, that is costing them something on the order of $200,000 per day in lost revenue. So not great for them for sure. And then into the daily stuff. Rackspace hosted exchange is still offline after a security issue. Actually, it may be up by now, but it was down certainly for 4 or 5 days. I know that they were handing out free licenses to Microsoft Office, which I'm sure is costing them a fortune. They also are not getting great marks from customers because they apparently are having to migrate these things one mailbox at a time. They have about 300,000 customer companies. And if you assume, even 10 users a company, that's 3 million users. So they're challenged. They just were not ready for this kind of attack. And at least one researcher was saying that they detected that at least on some of their Exchange servers, they had not installed patches since August. This is, last I checked, December. And one would think that they would patch their servers between August and December. Apparently not. In North Carolina, we're seeing terrorists, and I'm calling them terrorists because whatever they're doing is terrorism, whoever they are. I mean, if it's a bunch of drunk rednecks, that's fine, but they're still terrorists. And if they catch them, they're likely to go hit them with terrorism charges. They shot up two electric power substations, took about 40,000 people out of service for electricity for about a week. Actually, I'm amazed that they were able to recover because one of the challenges with these substations is they're kind of unique, and the transformers in them often take as long as a year to order, and they're almost all of them are made offshore. So the fact that they were able to get the power back on in a week is pretty amazing. Continuing on the vendor outsourcing ransomware cyber attack department, HR vendor Sequoia One, which is a professional employee organization, a co-employer, got hit by a ransomware attack. They are the co-employer for more than 500 venture capital-backed companies, amongst others. And of course, as you could imagine, the hackers got a absolute cornucopia of data, everything basically that your HR department would have, from Social Security records to healthcare records to insurance to driver's license to just everything. So I am sure they will get hit by a large number of really nasty lawsuits, and we shall see what they do. But it points to the fact that you really need to work on what you're going to do, assuming your key outsourced vendors get hit. And lastly, in the security news bites for the week, Rackspace finally admitted that the outage is ransomware. For several days, they just said, well, it's an IT incident. Well, that didn't fly very well. People figured out what it was. Also, the governors in South Dakota, North Dakota, and I think a couple of other states have banned TikTok on government computers now. So, one could say, well, TikTok is a cybersecurity threat and a national security threat, and I wouldn't argue with that. But excuse me, why are we paying government workers to watch TikTok videos? They can go off and claim all kinds of wonderfulness about how they're protecting their state governments, but I would ask, why the hell was TikTok allowed in the first place? I'm not exactly sure what the business case is for letting people watch TikTok videos on taxpayer dollars, but they're going to go off and spin this the way they want to spin it, and that means that they're going to say that look how wonderful we are. Also, we're seeing that there's a new attack vector for air gap networks. It's not that new, it's just being used, which is to use DNS servers as a command and control network. And that only works, obviously, if these air gap networks are connected to the internet, which a lot of, like, for example, in critical infrastructure, they are air gap but connected to the internet. If you think about the secure networks like the DoD runs, those are not connected to the internet. So therefore, they're not susceptible to this attack. But, taking your critical infrastructure offline, we saw that with Colonial Pipeline in North Carolina and these two substations. So that's not a great thing. Twitter is about to introduce new controls for ad placement in the wake of advertisers fleeing the platform. What this will enable advertisers to do is say that, I don't want my ad for XYZ placed next to a tweet, written by some crazy lunatic. You can do that based on keywords. So that is only as good as the keyword filtering, but hopefully that will allow some advertisers to come back without fear of having their brand trashed. And finally, the Pentagon released its next try at a cloud contract. The CIA did this about 10 years ago, I guess, 9 years ago. And they did an exclusive contract with Amazon. So the Pentagon tried the same thing, except there were protests from everybody who lost. Finally, this new cloud contract called JWCC, which is different than JWICS, not a great acronym choice, but Joint Warfire Cloud something or other. It is giving most of the players, Microsoft, Amazon, Oracle, and Google, a piece of the action. The contract is estimated to be worth about $9 billion. So you can understand why people are fighting over it. But that puts the Pentagon at least 9 years behind the CIA, which probably was not an early adopter, although I think they did a much better job than the Pentagon is doing. So they're hoping to have this thing done in about 2028, which if they're optimistic, they'll actually meet that date, which means they'll only be about 15 years behind the CIA and 20 years behind the rest of the planet. So, it doesn't give me a lot of warm feelings, but at least maybe this time there won't be a whole lot of lawsuits about it. We shall see. It's only been a few days. With that, thanks for listening and stay safe this week. Take care.
Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions offers the complete cybersecurity program for small to medium-sized businesses. They include everything needed to secure your business and meet compliance requirements. Visit our website at turnkeycybersecurityandprivacysolutions.com to learn more.